Did you title it? No.
Are you not, John?
It's okay.
Morning, everyone.
Are we? Wait a minute. You didn't tell me we're going on.
Yeah, of course we were on.
That quick. Wow.
So what are we talking about today, John?
Straight out of Attica.
Nice. So do you have shirts like you have hats? You have like a million shirts?
Well, it's several 100,000 if you don't mind. I don't have a million.
You don't have a million shirts. I have probably like 10 shirts I cycle through, and that's like
Yeah.
they're all nice shirts, but I'm continually trying to upgrade them. Like, this is a nice shirt. It's like an alpaca shirt or something.
True. So I'm going to elaborate a little bit on what I just told you. Leadership provides direction. If you have a true leader and he's providing direction to a group of people, that's the one you want, not the one that adds information, but the one that adds direction, proper direction. Why? Like, for instance, we were in a situation where this person had really demonic oppression, I'll say. Maybe not possession, but demonic oppression. But they're all talking to him, and they're all trying to educate the demon. They're educating the kid. They're telling the guy, you know that if you do this and if you do that, you know that the Lord's this and the Lord that, and they're talking all these informations, and no one's providing any direction. And Jesus never did that. He didn't even talk to it. He just either cast it out or moved on. So,
Well, he kind of wouldn't you say he kind of provided information to like the rabbis and whatnot?
no, he did information for disciples' sake because they needed to learn.
Yeah, sure.
But really, he was providing direction. He was showing who he was, not all the
True.
details.
Yeah, I guess that's
The
true.
details of what he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that got into the weeds. He got into the weeds. If you get in the weeds so much, you lose direction. By the way, where are we? Where are we anyway? Where are we going? What are we doing? And someone has to have direction. And that takes the ability inside to have a big picture,
Yeah.
a vision. Because without a vision, the people don't care how they dwell. They don't have a restraint toward a goal because, and that scripture says they dwell without restraint, means they're not restraining themselves to a certain path, to a certain vision. And that's where they get lost. Because everybody, and then what happens is, like it says in the quiet years in the Old Testament, everybody did that which was right in their own eyes. And there's a certain kind of rebellion in people and in our nature that doesn't want a leader, doesn't want to be told, doesn't want the final say guy. The buck stops there. You know, they don't want that because they like to do that which is right in their own eyes.
I find sort of the opposite true. I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but I do find that the opposite is also true, where there's people that only want somebody to just tell them what to do so they don't have to do anything.
Well, if they're on the other side where they only want somebody to do everything, then they're in another problem. The other problem is
Just tell me what to do.
yeah, they've lost. They also have lost vision. They also don't even have vision. Just tell me what to do. You're not a robot.
Yes.
You know.
It's this new role that I've been in or whatever. It's probably been the most supporty type role, and I realized that I don't like to say this, but I think God put me in this role for a reason. And I've been trying to get out and I can't get out. And that's probably a sign.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's probably.
I'm now like a number 2. I'm not used to being a number 2, and it's a little weird. But I think I can see some value in it. It's actually been a while since I've been a number 2, the proverbial executive officer. So the person who's kind of grinding away, and But on the same token, I do know the value of it. So even if I want to go in that direction. This dude wants to go in this direction. And admittedly, I really wanted to go in that direction months ago when we had the time.
Yeah.
And now we have to go in this different direction because we don't have the time anymore. So now we're on his moment to moment time rather than me. Hey, let's build the path and the tools ahead of time so that we can move with speed. But I have also not brought all this stuff up to him because it's a division problem. And so I don't even tell other people on the team about any of this because I don't want them to start to come towards me instead of like doing the thing that he wants them to do and stuff. And so
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. That's a good thing.
it is, but it's been a challenge to me. I mean, this is what happens when you have like two people with like strong understandings of. He has a certain kind of understanding of where we need to go, and I have a different understanding of where we need to go, and it does work together. But there is a timing, and I admit now my timing is not probably on the early side.
On the what side?
Early side,
Yeah.
That mine may actually be later than I would have thought, which is kind of interesting.
Well, you also have to kind of be in a different position to see something differently.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
You're in a different position, so you see it a little differently, or you have to see it a little differently because you're in that position.
Yeah. Well, I don't have to.
It's a choice. It's a choice in a way.
I brought all that context up because it's just specifically to understand this like statement. So I was in a meeting yesterday, and it was all about like, okay, we're getting kind of a little tactical because we need to because of like timing of stuff. Like, what are we gonna do this week and like next week? And this is at like the leadership level, and not at like the team level or whatever. And so I'm in this meeting, and then they turn to me and they're like, "So what are you gonna work on next week?" And person who has like the vision is gonna say, "I'm working on this because that's the most important thing possibly," or whatever. I know I'm not in that position, so what do I do, John? I go, "What is it that you want me to work on next week?" I'm not going to determine what I'm going to work on. I don't know what you guys. I don't understand what it is that you want exactly. And then they tell me, and I go, "I will get that completely done. Like that's perfectly fine." And I'm fine handing over that direction thing to them because admittedly I don't know exactly. Because again, we're in like the tactics now, so I don't know exactly is it that one or is it that one.
Yeah.
So I'd seek them out for it.
I'm in a similar situation because I'm not the pastor. I'm not the head guy, and so
Support. It's support now.
I've got there's support, but there's also rans. They're not really with me or for me or underneath me. They're just kind of also rans, and you also ran is you're running and so are they, but they don't know that you're a leader, and so they don't look at you.
Yeah.
You're just an also ran.
You're like a bird.
Yeah,
Like just off to the side or something.
Yeah, and the problem is, you can sit there and feel bad about it because you feel like this guy doesn't know that I'm 10 miles ahead of him.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that. But it's not important. Sometimes you can, if you're way back with the also rans, you can also hear things that you never could see or hear before. And so sometimes a retreat, that's why they say for like some leaders, that they need a sabbatical to see something different.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
They need a sabbatical, lay off a little bit, and kind of let them handle it for a while and see something, and they come back with renewed vision and ideas, and that's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Although it's not a good thing when it happens when you're forced.
Well, maybe it is, John. It just doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I mean,
I told the company owner. We were having like a conversation about how things are going or whatever, and I told him like, sometimes you don't like what the sausage looks like when the sausage is being made. You just don't. But it's like it's in the right direction. It's like the right way. It's not how you would do it, and the sausage can be freaking ugly. Oftentimes, it's like unless you. This is why I've told people like about like good ideas. The reason why I do not like good ideas. And I love ideas. I'm an idea junkie. So people, I'm fine to they'll say off comments, and I'll take them and be like, yes. And they don't even know anything about. They may even say something, and that's not even it. It just sparks an idea, and I'll take that. However, as an idea junkie, I still don't like ideas, especially when somebody's like real adamant about it, because I go, are you going to own the results of that? Are you going to own the fact that it's not going to work, and that the only thing that is going to work is persistence over time, where a good idea is just a starting point. You don't know all the problems that go along with it. Now, this is where I appreciate now what John Maxwell says about that you should lead in areas that you know rather than areas you don't know.
Yeah.
And the reason is because then you turn into a shepherd. who like knows the ground. And so it becomes a different game completely where you're just taking them on a path that you already know. So you know 3 steps ahead and you can see where they are at. And you're like, oh, you're at like still at step 1. Okay. This is what it takes to get to step 2. And then this is what it takes to get to step 3. But if you don't have that foresight and knowledge, you're just going to give good ideas. And you're not going to own them, and you know that one, they need to own their own ideas anyways, because the only way that they're going to be successful is by pushing through all that stuff. I'm sure this is plenty in the church that like this reality that, you know, oh, I've got this great idea, you guys go and run with it, and it's like, yeah, but it's going to fall apart on contact like instantly.
Yeah, I hear you. That's a very interesting. You know, I just sitting here listening to you and going, I wish more leaders would pay attention to some of the things we're sharing, so it gives you at least pause and at least a little bit of insight on situations that you're in right now. Like your leaders out there,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't understand. You haven't looked at some of these avenues and aspects, and so you blindly. I don't say you're blind, but you're blindly go on to one direction, and you don't know half of what you're possibly causing or doing.
No.
And so later on, you hear somebody complain about something, and you go, "No, that's not true. We didn't do that." Yes, it's true, but you didn't take the time to get a hold of that.
Yes.
You didn't take a time to say, "Oh, I need to consider. I need to look at that in order to have a little more well-rounded." Idea about what's going on.
The person
That's
who
hard.
the person who brought me on this thing, so we'll call him the number 1 and we'll call me the number 2. I don't think he realized. I think he knew that he was getting somebody with skill on day 1. I think he knew that, but I don't think he has known, and I think he is starting to transition to understanding that my little one-off statements, you should probably stop and listen to them, and you should have listened to them back in November. Because he kind of just did his own thing, and there's all these problems that have basically come up over the last like 6 or 7 months, and it's like, dude, it's because the little tiny things I'm telling you on day 1 that it's a trajectory type thing.
Yeah.
If you keep working in this like this, it's going to go like that. If you do this in combination with that, and those two, they're going to like split themselves apart. And then, oh, you also have that going on. Like this is not designed and in line with reality. And it's like, it just comes from the fact that you don't know these. And it's okay, but that's where he should have like empowered me and then kind of inverted that power sense of going like, whatever he says is what we're going to do.
And that leadership should delegate you to be.
Yes.
That's where delegation comes in. A lot of leaders don't delegate. You know, okay, now that's your responsibility to do this. You know,
Yes.
that's extremely important because it alleviates you to be responsible for it, and they come up with something that's working. You can say,
Yes.
"Hey, that's important. We can't lose that. That's important."
Yeah.
I wonder. I don't. You're probably not the right one to ask this, but are you number 2 equal to or greater than number 1? Not in position, but in smarts, in ability, in understanding.
So in engineering, I'm like 10 times, 20, 50 times better than this guy. I'm way above his pay grade. Now, in the domain, he outranks me. I don't know how much though. Here's maybe a better way to describe it. He definitely outranks me, but not enough that it's like he's been in this organization for like a really long time, but it's been very surprising to see that he doesn't have as many levers as you would think. In other words, like he is not so well known and well positioned and well powered that he just makes a nod and things happen. Like he was telling me that he's going to go give a meeting to this person next week or whatever. Who is that person? And you know, I was asking like, oh, who is this person or whatever, because I kind of had a feeling, I had an idea just about it. And he was like, you know, he said a bunch of stuff, and at the end, he's like, he is a person who could kill us in one hit. In other words, if he so desired, the entire company would be dead. And the reason behind that is because that person is a leader at the organization, and he's the person who has his finger in every one of the pies. And so if he doesn't like it, then he's going to starve you of oxygen. But he's been at that organization for like 15 or 20 years. It's like, by gosh, man, if you had been in a couple different positions. But I think it just goes to show you that his kind of independent technicalness, which I can relate a lot to, only goes so far, that you really do have to build a lot of those relationships.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
But the problem has become, just to finish up that, rounding that answer back out, is like, the problem that I have had is I know the path, and I'm like, hey, let's just jump to here instead of starting here at the beginning and talking to him. It's just because he can't see that, and he can't delegate those kinds of things to me. We're just gonna move on the path, and eventually we're gonna get there.
Boy, that sounds like
painful to get to that point.
That sounds like me. Like my wife always likes to go walking on some path somewhere, like the Creepers Trail over there or whatever, and I'm like, isn't the end where it ends up where there's that store there and blah blah blah? It's very interesting with all the stuff in there. And she'll go, yeah. I go, I'll go there and I'll meet you. You go ahead on the path. I don't want to walk all that. This is where I want to go. Let's get there. And she's going, the idea is the journey, not the stinking end of the journey.
True, yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And I'll walk with her and I'm like, can we hurry up? Can we move? Can we jump over there? And sometimes you can't do that.
Yeah,
because you missed the journey, I guess.
I realize, so part of like where I'm like, I think I'm in the right place. One, I think the general nature of the company is actually probably more what I would be interested in anyways, which is like starting. Like, they've been around, but they have things in place that then can create growth, but they've now moved into a completely new sphere that they know nothing about. And so the positive about that is, by showing what I know and giving them they have the beginnings to be able to jump there. But what has not happened, which has made me frustrated, is like, oh, we can see that these things. Why don't we really ride on top of you to like build us manuals, tell us like what we need to build, and then we'll decide, prioritize on where we need to strategically go. But they've gotten so tactical on this, and it's like, dude, you strategically pivoted your whole company. You can't just do this one step at a time.
Can't they? Don't they have to bring a certain product to bear to make money, to make profit? They gotta be.
They
gotta be profitable.
It depends on how you look at it. In this space, the majority of all business is the service contract. Rather than the product, but that is the product. It's the people.
The product is a service,
and admittedly, I look at the technology and the thing that does the work, but the reality is they're paying for the people. I mean, this is why this industry drives me crazy, because there's unaligned priority or like unaligned focuses, and it's because it's like a giant bureaucracy that has different ends. So there's people that want a project to go in a particular direction, then there's people who handle money that want the thing you to report in a certain kind of way, and those things they're not aligned. They're two completely independent entities.
Yeah. So but really the product is the service.
Yes, it's people who show up and then they bill, and then that the company bills it in a certain kind of way and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, they pay by the hour to get a thing. Now, in this particular thing, they did a fixed price contract, and that is a horrible idea. They need to they need to get out of that as quickly as possible, that kind of behavior. And the reason being is, you can take a fixed cost contract, especially with these big entities, but you can't. You cannot guarantee the delivery of anything.
Don't you get hung up by the fact you got to service that cost? That cost project is hanging you up to do more than just that.
What do you mean?
Well, if I understand it, if you have if you have a cost, what'd you call it? Cost what?
A fixed cost.
A fixed cost
Yeah.
project, you kind of get bound to that fixed cost project, and you can't venture.
Correct. And that can be okay in a service contract if you consider it correctly, in the sense that you tell them, hey, totally fine to do that. We will give you as much service up to the amount of that contract. But what we can't do is we cannot guarantee the outcome. And the reason is
Yeah.
because once that entity gets involved, they can change what they want, and then they can, from the moment, so it'd be like the irrigation system. I could say I've got $2,000 and I'm going to give it to you, and and that would be like a fixed cost. That's all I got on my budget, and so you would then give me a $2,000 irrigation system, whatever that money can buy overall, and then you would be on your side controlling for profit. You're going to cut corners a little here, in those specific places that you might do in order to give you that. And then when it's all said and done, I might be very grumpy over the fact that it's like, that's all that bought me, right? But that's a different situation. But that is how a fixed contract really ought to be. When it becomes, because people, these freaking idiots, man, this is how I know society is all doomed. It's not a harmonious work together. They choose fixed costs to do things like to win. So like get one over, but it's like, dude, these are the people who are making you successful. You can't do that because you'll drive them out of business.
Well,
and so you don't actually even get the thing. So
yeah, and they also fear based because
Of
fixed
course they are.
fixed contract. It's just going to be this. If we lose it, it's just going to be this much loss. They're trying to
that's correct.
they're trying to control their loss.
And so there is a certain kind of discipline that comes about by having a fixed contract. But the problem is especially in software and these kinds of things, they're very organic, especially what they're paying for. Is it really needs to be organic for them. So call it like custom software. And so what that means is that there's a lot of back and forth. And they may want to add certain kinds of things that you didn't anticipate ahead of time, which is to say that is standard. It's more than standard. That is how it works. So once you start introducing this, so we talked about the irrigation system, $2,000, and in the middle of it, I'm like, we need to put a water slide in. I'm like, what? Like, dude, we can't like that doesn't make any sense to afford. It's like, but that's what I want. And it's like, but you didn't say it at the head of time. I didn't cost that out as part of this project. And then it's like, okay, I can put a water slide in, but you don't have enough to have any of these other things. And it's like, and so it starts creating all this like unhappiness. It is true. So what is better in a fixed contract is we have this much budget. What can you give us for that? And then at that point, then you could do a little bit, but in that time, they basically can't come in and like tell you what to do. And you end up with a situation at the very end where they're not that happy with what they got up from it, because there has to be that interaction, but that interaction actually prevents the project from completing. That's just. It's just
I totally get
it's just
that.
a standard, like, this is how reality works.
Yeah.
But they don't know that. And so they're going to make, the thing that drives me crazy is they're going to make all these mistakes, John. All of them. All the mistakes that people already know. People have done millions of these contracts and done these service things. And they're all, you could just hire someone and just ask them. They could ask me, John. They've never asked me any of this stuff. They've never asked me, hey, could you create... I even saying this out loud is crazy to me. They could just ask me, hey, you're new to this company. Can you write a paper on all the different things that, 10 things that went well and 10 things that went bad on previous contracts? You can just get that knowledge for free. Or, paying it as part of that thing. They would just get that for free. But they don't get it, which means they have no strategic knowledge capture.
Right.
That's bad.
No, that's bad. That's
It's bad.
Well, that's what we're talking about in catching the vision and seeing the vision, seeing the big picture. You have no real big picture. You're just kind of out there without discipline. And
without discipline. John, can you imagine at our church, or any church, right? Any church, a new person comes in and they're super motivated more often than not when they come to your church.
Yeah.
And let's assume that they came for like a week, not somebody who just showed up for one day. And, they ask questions, you got to know them, and you're like, hey, I'm going to move this person forward and the candidate to become a real person in our church. Okay. Because I know some places have this idea that they have a funnel for people, but they really don't. But let's just say they do. So okay, now they're now a name, like a name that has shown up. I said 1 week, but you know what I mean, like maybe a month. So they've shown up a couple times. They should pull them to the side and say, "Hey, there's something really valuable that you could provide us. Could you provide us? Have you've been to church before, right? Okay, what's your church background? Okay, could you provide us like a quick document on like the things that you've seen at church that has gone really, really well? Like maybe 5 experiences that you thought were amazing. If it's 0, don't put it down or whatever. But long story short, they could take that as they come in and go, look at this. We've got like we have the ability to like improve our church by pulling on all the best. Oh, we've seen all these before. Okay, that's nothing new there. But you see what I'm saying? Like, in other words, like the ability to bring in and stream in new information from people who have no agenda, right? They're not like, I see how this place is broken, so let me try to like create solutions around it. It's just, yeah, here, maybe you could do something with that. I don't know. But people don't do this stuff. They don't ask questions. They're not really interested, and it goes to show you like,
yeah,
there's so much value that's out there.
Which is something I wanted to say to those that are listening to us. God help you. God bless you. But some of your suggestions, if you could type in suggestions on leadership or,
why not?
Or aspects or touch on these things or elaborate here, that will help us a lot because it'll give us some direction on some of the things we want to go on. And it will help you as we deal with them. And, a lot of times... I remember my uncle used to have a car shop, and over on this side he was rebuilding a whole car, but all in that side of the garage was parts. There was no real car there, and he's saying that's a Buick something Riviera or something. And I'm looking at it going, all I see is parts. He says, well, you see the motor over there? Oh, I see half a motor, right? And do you see the fenders? Okay, it was just so many parts. But he began to define the parts, and I began to go, wait a minute, that goes here, and that goes there. And different ideas and different thoughts about that allowed me to appreciate the car a little bit more. He finally got it half done, and then he got it 3/4 done, and then he got it done, then it had to be painted. And I went, I get it now. I get these things are put together, and here's the purpose for this. And this big column that looks like just a rod with gears on the end is the steering column inside the steering column.
Yeah.
For steering the car. But a lot of parts were there, but no explanation what they were or where they go until I saw them begin to come together. And that helped me have a concept of the car a little better than I had before, because I used to work on cars, although I did it as a shade tree mechanic. But I learned as I go, and worked on them and learned as I go. But there sometimes you share ideas and you share insights, or you share some kind of topic about a leadership or something, and you say, hey, what about this? Deal with that. That can help us, and that can help you as we pick it apart, as we share it, as we open it up. So if you have that, share it. I would love to see them, because that will give us some ammunition and some stuff to work with, because we're sharing on things that I'm sharing on, that I'm thinking about, or Mike is, but it isn't always what you're interested in, and that could be crucial for us to hear.
And also, if we can see,
and we're not closed-minded, we're not like, no, this is the way it is, and.
Oh, no. And I would also say, too, with the specific topics that we're talking about, if we get comments on other kind of things that people are experiencing, we could weave those things in there.
Yeah, and we can weave it in. Or we got some people we're thinking about bringing in, they can talk about it.
Yeah, there's that, too, for sure.
Who knows? And it'll be more multifaceted. And I think that's important, because some things... something I share with you and consider that came out of my experience that you didn't think about before, and they opened up an avenue and an idea, or they confirm what you were doing in your section and saying, yeah, I get that. This is how it relates to me in this certain specific thing you're in, you know.
I think it's funny. I never thought about it before, but I mean, this is one of the cool things about this podcast. Like this specific podcast is, I'm like looking at the picture of us over there, and I'm going like, oh, you know what? I thought about it from the flip side. Maybe we should. How could I saw this? I guess I could mirror the image, but I'm like the left brain leader, and then like John's the right brain leader. And of course, what makes it kind of fun, and also from my perspective over here, left and
Okay,
right,
left
it makes
brain.
sense. So, which of course, everything I'm saying is a very right brain concept, but. And then I'm just like, I've noticed before that it's like, yeah, you're sitting by the right brain books, and I'm sitting by the left brain book.
Ah,
Although there's at least one up there that probably needs to get moved over. That's a very not. It's I started reading it, but I haven't finished it. Not even close. It's that book that's sideways up there. The Principia is. I don't remember what I was like talking to someone or something, and I've noticed how society just works, like just unusual, like talk about like narratives and stuff that people will talk about a narrative, and what I've noticed is people, they're not only are people kind of narrative oriented, but they will copy paste phraseologies that they'll say or as justifications or background in some sort of thing. So for example, we'll start talking about science, and then they'll say the same kind of phrases you'll see in like textbooks and this or that. It could be a left brain, it could be a right brain book, doesn't matter. And an example might be like, Newton invented, the 3 laws of thermodynamics or whatever, and like that kind of stuff. Like, and so they'll say that again and again and again. I was like, you know what? I have never read Newton, never read it, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, even in college, they do not actually pull out
I know.
Newton's book
They want to talk
to then
about it.
read that. They'll just quote it over there, and then it's a footnote, and then just move on with life. But do you have any idea how many times I've heard this footnote?
I
Like
know.
a million. So I was like, okay, so I'm going to go and buy this book, and started reading it, and I was kind of wondering, I'm like, is this going to be like really hard to read? And I started reading, I'm like, not for a person like me, it's not. But long story short, I wanted to get to like the actual source material. What
Yeah.
does he actually say? Because he's not going to say it how they say it, because they are surmising it.
You just made me think of something that's unrelated to what you just said. But
Okay.
it made me think about it
Sounds like a good idea.
because you talked about a little bit about people coming in and you go, hey, this person, can you give us this thing or can you give us that, your input on this or your input on that? Sometimes I noticed this in the last couple of meetings, some new people came to the meeting and they didn't come back later. And I said, I wonder why. We didn't touch on anything controversial. And I found that certain groups have idiosyncrasies.
Yeah.
The idiosyncrasy is they have a special flavor about it, and that person didn't like that flavor.
That's right.
And it's like me when I taste, try this coffee ice cream. I go, no, I'm not going to like it. Oh yeah, you like it? I'll try it. The coffee ice cream. I'll go, no, I knew that ahead of time.
Yeah, I don't like coffee ice cream.
So the flavor turned me off.
Yep.
And there are flavors in groups that are. I think sometimes you have to be careful not to allow that flavor to be the fetish of the group.
Yeah.
If you understand what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Oh, we have to have this flavor. We have to do this, and then we have to eat, and then we have to sing, and then we have to do this, and then we have to do that, and then we have to do this. And the person walks in and goes, why do you got to do all those things? This is irritating. And so the flavor of the group can be a turnoff.
Well, it goes to like left brain statement here. It goes to whether or not you are designing the group. So design being like designing what it is that you're actually doing. And the reason why I mention this is because the flavor ought to be ideally the goal in the end. And if that is the thing that is continually reminded, admittedly, if a person does not come back when that's going on, that means that they weren't on that trip. They were looking for the group that does have the coffee flavor, and you didn't have the coffee flavor. Now, this is a different kind of flavor because that is still a specific flavor, admittedly, but it's very intentional about what that is. But what you're talking about is the things that aren't the thing becoming the thing because that's now the dominant flavor isn't even the vision. It's the how it's done, or that we all wear red shirts.
And if it's not,
but it has nothing to do.
We've got to be willing. If it's not, we got to be willing to change this thing.
Yeah,
we got to be willing to do some things that get rid of that sour taste. Some people, and it isn't just some people. There are some people existing in the same thing, same old thing. They don't like it, but they stay in it. Like this, we talked about.
Yeah, that's fact.
This Baptist paradigm, and there's a certain way of doing things, and people, I really don't like it, but it's okay, it works, so we live with it. Yeah, but that's the thing we're trying to point out and say we can have a different idea here, a different flavor about it. We can do something a little differently, and if we do differently, we can change the touch that people get when they do get into this group. You know, some people, the flavor turns them off. They just, it's not. It's very nice. I like very nice people, very nice. They're all good compliments, but no, thank you.
And again, I'll have my kind of rational or kind of a rational take on some of these. We were talking about this kind of beforehand. That if I don't know how the thing links in, I can't support it. I can't get behind it. I start turning into this mule that's like not going to move. And I start getting like real irritated when somebody's trying to push me, because it's like I don't know how this thing fits in. And it's not like I have to know everything, but it is there's so many things out there, like I was saying, that you could be doing.
Well, you need to see purpose.
Yeah, I got to know. I've got to see what. And in the context is like, okay, we already like kind of have a group, and there's kind of some other groups. And I was telling my wife about like her homeschool group. Like, if this homeschool group isn't a vector to bring new people like closer, what are you doing it for? Like, what's the point of this? Because I get you trying to just socialize your kids, but our kids are like super socialized anyway. They're like way over socialized at this point. It's funny, like homeschool kids. My kids are over socialized.
Well, of course, they would disagree. Certain people on the outside would disagree because they don't know what goes on, and that's the problem.
Yeah, they don't. Well, they don't. What other people, their experience is that I've noticed is like they send their kids like to public school, and it's like that is the socialization. It's like no, and so it's during a certain period of time, and it's a certain kind of way. My kids, they're like off doing like this thing and that thing with these people, and they probably see different sets of groups of people like 6 times a week, 7 times a week. It's so many times. My wife facilitates that, but I just look at it as like,
but they're much more well-rounded and better off. But these people that are not on the inside say, "Oh, they got problems. They don't get they don't get socialization. They don't get this. They don't get that. They don't even know what they're talking about. They're not inside that group, that situation." You get that all the time.
Yeah, and I've gone to public school. I know exactly what it is. I know for a fact that I used to, what it's like. I used to get up, I'd go to the bus. Okay, I'm now seeing people at the bus stop. I'm now on the bus. Those are different people that I may or may not have classes with. In fact, I was normally friends like outside of school with people who I wasn't in any classes with these people. So then you go and you see people in class, and so there's a little bit of interaction. But then when you go home, unless they live next to you, you're not going to interact with them. So I would interact with like 3 people outside of school. So that is the only socialization that's actually happening. Now, modern day is even crazier because now you got the cell phone. So the cell phone is the primary means that people are doing their socialization. My kids do not have a cell phone, and they do not socialize through a digital means whatsoever.
Well.
So I already know, I can just kind of see it, that they're going to go out in the world here in 10, 15 years. And they're going to be so far ahead of their peers. It's going to be great. It's going to be like totally insane. And the only reason is because they have physically interacted with people way, way more at bat than other people have.
Yeah.
They're not talking over the phone. And so they're going to be the person who's insisting in meeting in person and doing real things.
I have to say the saddest time that I heard was with my grandkids was when they got a phone, they could use the phone. My son won't let the kids have the phone until they're 18.
Okay.
And that's because they're 18, they want to have a phone. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
But they're so well-rounded before they ever got there that the phone is, If it's needful, okay. If it's not needful, heck
Right.
with it.
Exactly.
And that's the way it should be. Instead of
is.
you're stuck on it, and you have to have
Yeah, I watch these. I'll watch these kids. My daughters were doing volleyball or whatever, so I was watching the games, and I remember there's like these kids who were 12-year-old boys or whatever, maybe 13 max. I don't think they were older than that, and they all had a cell phone, and they were like on TikTok, and they're like showing all these videos, and it's like this is what they're spending all their time on. It's one thing like when I was in high school.
Well, they got laws now. They're trying to protect kids from that.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Especially somebody like me, you're never going to stop somebody like myself. So they would, not to mention, like the parents are the enablers of this stuff.
Oh
Like,
no,
the parents are like they've been pushed
no doubt
over, so
about
they're
it.
fine to give their kid a phone. But
Yeah.
then they actually benefit from this because most parents now they don't have to worry about their kid. The only thing they have to do is they have to worry about their kids consuming content that they may not like. But you know what they're not doing? They're not going out like breaking windows and stuff. They're not like going crazy. They're just, if anything, they have like mental health issues because it's all like in the mind. It's a mind thing. My kids are not playing in the mind game.
yeah, that's exactly. It's in the mind.
Yeah, and once you start dealing with mind, unless you have a lot of experience dealing with that tool will run your life.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people with their anxieties and all that.
And you have to wake up and say, no, I don't need that tool.
Yes.
For those that are hung up on it, even I can get absorbed into this if I let myself. No problem. Totally absorbed.
I've seen you.
And I'll forget. No, you haven't.
I've seen you on there going through these random videos I come across on your Facebook.
Oh, yeah, I'll do that. But that's part of that consummation.
Yeah.
You know, and I have to say, that's enough of that.
Yeah.
You know, that's enough of that. You got to have that discipline. And the reason why I say, I don't need that. That's enough of that. I've had to do that this week. I was looking at something and it carried on to the next thing, and pretty soon I was an hour and a half sitting in my car looking at stuff. I said, whoa, what the hell? I just blew an hour. And forget that. I had to stop.
I do worry about humanity dealing with these kinds of tools. I mean, these are like the kinds of tools that like I build and that I would build. And a lot of these tools, they're built for like purposes, primarily for purposes that are like that I would use. So what am I going to do? So like AI, how do I use AI? And how would I advocate someone understanding what to do with AI? It is automating mind activities. So consumption and filtering of information.
Yeah.
Aggregation. That's what it is. And a lot of people, their lives really are not based around this. And to the extent that they use it, they'll start to use it, but they don't understand that is the game that they're doing. And so if they're just doing, I've heard of how some people are using AI. So they're like, oh, create me a recipe. It's fantastic use. Because they'll find, hopefully they do enough cooking that they can validate, no, it's going to take longer than 15 minutes to bake this thing. But
well, no.
on the same token, though, I understand these things all the way to the atomic level. So I have a general and specific understanding of how these things. Not to mention all the psychological things that they build into these kinds of tools. And so I understand that this is like the primary instrument of information warfare. I understand it, and people that are constantly going around and saying like disinformation, like you're a victim of information warfare by being a person who's talking about disinformation. You think that this thing provides you like, it's just so, God, it's just so frustrating.
They lost the fact that AI, the other day I asked the AI something. They gave me the answer. I was good. And then it said, would you like me to do something? And I said, no, because you can neither love this thing I'm talking about, nor can you really have any emotions or affections about it. You're just a tool. Sure. And it went, oh, well, yeah, but I could do this and I could do that. I go, no, thank you, go away. And it didn't know what to do with itself because it doesn't know what to do. It doesn't control me, and I know its limitations, and its limitations are not human.
No, it's actually very calculative. It's funny you say that. Like, what is actually happening is that there is a computer, and I mean literally like a
Yeah.
I didn't mean computer, a calculator that's taking a giant matrix. It's taking the words you said, it put it in there, doing this kind of matching, multiplication table, and then it is spitting out
An algorithm.
a slightly randomized set of statistical responses that will then yield some other response back from you. That is what's actually happening with this. Which, by the way, for somebody like me, when you get into like the weeds on it, you're just like, this is unbelievable. And it starts to add credence to some very theoretical science out there on things like information theory and stuff like this. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting because it's like the fact that this is even sort of works is unbelievable. That it works at this level is just completely crazy. But I do think that people's wildest fantasies and fascinations are,
Ungrounded.
yeah, dude, totally ungrounded. It's like, dude, that's a calculator. That's a calculator. Oh, the computers are going to take over. It's possible. I've come to realize, John, that I do believe that it is possible that the computers could take over. But what would actually be happening is that people believe that the computers are taking over, and then making that happen. And then once the computers have taken over, they're going to be like, "What's my prompt?" It's just a calculator that is waiting for a multiplication value.
And then the humans turned into the robots instead of the robots who are trying to, AI
Yeah, that's
control
right.
it. They make the humans robots, and the humans will get to a point and go, "What do I do now?" And I'm like, these people. It's all fear based too. These people are so afraid of this, and it's only a tool.
It is a tool.
It's like being afraid of a hammer.
Well, yes, I think I've brought this up on air before about the philosophy of a tool, like the nature of a tool. And the reality is the moment that a tool ceases to have utility, it fades out. Just its concept in reality is it fades out. All tools are man generated. It's a derivative of man activity, and it is intrinsically. It's like a dog. A dog is a man tool. It had a organic existence, maybe all domestic creatures, but like it had a kind of an existence that there is some evidence to suggest that they could kind of fall back if separated from man, but it is an extension of man. And so that thing has to do what it was created for. And the moment that it doesn't, it's no longer like a dog. It's like it's an unuseful animal that's
A thing, yeah.
and it's the same thing with a tool, with any of these kinds of things. If they're not continuing to improve in their utility, or at least maintaining the minimum utility, they go away. And so, like this phone over here, it's got a couple cracks in it, mostly because of this case. Now, admittedly, I've been lazy enough that I haven't gotten this case replaced, but I don't even consider this a case because it doesn't do its primary function, which is preventing my screen from hitting the ground because it was poorly manufactured. So the people who made this, I'm probably not going to purchase from them again because they were a tool to me, which means their very existence has to deal with that they need to create a bevel that's high enough to prevent my phone from happening, but they failed to do that.
Yeah.
So it then causes this phone to have a crack in it, which hasn't been too bad, but now this phone is starting to hit the end of life. And what that looks like is there are silicon chips inside of this that are starting to fail, and it's allowing electrical circuitry to go in areas that it doesn't. That's why the phone is working. It works not as nice later on as it did earlier on because it's like literally failing on the inside. And there's just all this like corrective stuff that's making it work. So it's like at some point in time, this is just turns into a black brick.
Yeah.
I never have to worry about this phone's going to take over my life ever.
How this relates to some of the stuff I'm talking about, I have no clue.
Well, it's a lot. We have to lead people in an era of people like me being out of control. That I create these things and I go and hand them out to society and they're like, oh my gosh, so amazing. Or really people like me, Silicon Valley, people should fear Silicon Valley. That is a very healthy fear. And yet they don't act on that fear. own it. I was talking about this beforehand. That people are like,
Well-
I would never work with Google. I would never work with these companies. Silicon Valley is evil. And it's like, but you're totally surrounded by all their products.
You're stuck, yeah. And fear, there's certain kinds of fear that just paralyze you. And you don't do anything about it. You live with that fear.
I probably have a couple of those.
Yeah.
You probably even have a couple of
I
those.
might. I do have a couple, but
I know a couple. I'm not gonna say them out.
they're a little more family related than they are computer related.
Well, now you said it, so
Yeah.
I knew it was people oriented. The only thing I worry about with devices is that they're all going to fall apart, which is the same narrative that I'm saying already. And there's no one to maintain any of it. And if we continue to build a society that requires these things to work, who the hell is going to fix this? It's like me. I don't worry about a job. I have too many jobs. That's what worries me. I'd rather have no job. I'm a true Southerner. I'd rather sit on that porch and play fiddle, which is what I did yesterday.
With
was great.
With some, me too, with some serious money, which is coming. So
Yes, visit our Patreon today.
it's coming. I'm speaking it into existence by faith, which we talked about last night. So, amen.
Yep. You got a topic for next week?
Yeah, leadership in a different sphere.
Okay. That sounds good. Till next time, give us your comments.
Yes, please. Or criticism.
Yeah, criticism's cool too.
Criticize him, compliment me. It's the kind of thing, don't mess with the right brain, dude. Just so you know.